Day 131 of the war in Gaza. The IDF has aired footage of Hamas terrorist leader Yihya Sinwar in a Khan Younis tunnel and says it's only a matter of time before he's killed or captured. The revelation came after the chief of staff said the army is now beginning the evacuation of Rafah civilians to keep them out of harm's way ahead of the IDF advance. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
The army released footage depicting Yihya Sinwar's brother Ibrahim leading the Hamas chief along with his wife and children through the tunnel passage. The footage was from a Hamas security camera on October 10th and was discovered by IDF troops in a tunnel recently used by the terrorist leader. The IDF said that the hunt to capture or kill Sinwar will not stop.
This evening, we are releasing a footage of the mass murder and mastermind behind the Hamas massacre of October 7th, Yihya Sinwar. This video is one of many that we have obtained since October 7th. Sinwar started a war with Israel, a war that Israel did not seek, a war that has caused immense suffering to Israelis and Palestinians alike. While the people of Gaza are suffering above ground, Sinwar is hiding in tunnels underground underneath them, running like the coward that he is, with one of his wives and children and his brother leading the way.
Meanwhile, IDF Chief of Staff Yihya Levy is working on plans to evacuate civilians from South Gaza's Rafah before it launches its offensive there.
עיתוי הפעולה, אנחנו משאירים אותו להחלטה של הדרג הצבאי עם הדרג המדיני. אני חושב שברור לכולנו, ובאמת בהערכה רבה מאוד לעצות ממדינות אחרות, אנחנו יודעים שמורכב לנו יותר להילחם בסביבה בה יש מעל מיליון אנשים ועוד כ10,000 פעילים שהם פעילי חמאס, הם האויב, ואותם צריך להרוג.
Halevi said that the time for Rafah civilians to evacuate is now.
לכן, כפי שעשינו גם בחלקים קודמים במלחמה, אנחנו נשאף לבודד אוכלוסייה. יש לנו את היכולות לעשות את זה. עשינו את זה בעיר עזה, עשינו את זה בח'אן יונס, עשינו את זה במחנות המרכז. אני אומר כאן, ניתן לתושבים ברפיח לפנות את האזור, כדאי מאוד לפנות את האזור. לא נכון לאזרחים, לתושבים, למשפחות, להיות באזור של לחימה. מתי זה יקרה? איך זה יקרה? נחליט בבוא העת, נבצע בנחישות.
According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, the IDF plans include movement of Rafah civilians to 15 tent cities along the Gaza coast. Israel reportedly showed Egypt the proposals to get civilians out of Gaza's southern city ahead of the ground up. The Prime Minister's office said several plans for Rafah are still being considered.
Families of Israeli hostages taken captive on October 7th flew to The Hague today to file a war crimes complaint against Hamas in the International Court of Justice. Their loved ones remain captive in Gaza for 131 days and counting. Talks for a negotiated deal to release hostages in exchange for an extended pause in fighting were held in Cairo, with some progress reported. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
Some 100 relatives of Israelis held in Gaza traveled to the Netherlands to submit charges of kidnapping, sexual violence, torture, and other allegations against Hamas to the International Criminal Court in The Hague.
We are going to ICC at Hague to demand indictment for the head of the Hamas. We are sure that we will get it, and the heads of the Hamas will know that every place in the world they will be under pressure.
Over the past 4 months, lawyers for the Missing Families Forum, which is representing the hostages' relatives, have prepared a legal submission demanding that arrest warrants be issued against the Hamas leadership for the October 7th atrocities. That includes those in Qatar and anywhere else in the world.
We want to see them take out warrants and make sure that the leaders of Hamas are taken into custody or that they cannot leave Qatar anymore, and that this puts pressure on them to release the hostages.
Meanwhile, talks were held in Egypt for a mediated hostage deal. The Qatari and Egyptian mediated negotiations were attended by the heads of the CIA and the Mossad. An Egyptian mediator was quoted saying that progress toward an agreement had been made, but there was still a great deal of work to be done. He said the parties worked on crafting a final draft of a 6-week humanitarian pause, with guarantees that the parties would continue negotiations toward a permanent ceasefire. 134 hostages remain held in Hamas captivity. They've been held in Gaza for 131 days.
Well, as the families of hostages pursue this legal action against Hamas, families are still praying for a deal that will help bring their loved ones home. An incredibly complex situation that really should be simple: release the hostages. Well, as negotiations are underway, here to speak with us about the situation is attorney and journalist Ben-Dror Yamini. Ben-Dror, thank you so much for being with us today. First off, I want to get your take on the legal actions being pursued by the families of hostages. Is this something that can help pressure Hamas?
No, it's not. It's not, but it's quite important for the international community. I mean, it is quite important because the whole process, in the international court is not something which is going to be something practical. I mean, not concerning Israel, not concerning the Hamas. But, of course, it has its own influence on the public opinion, generally speaking. So it is important. I don't think that they are going to decide something against Hamas, and even if it will be decided upon, it will be completely not something. I mean, Hamas is not going to obey to any kind of international court. They are willfully, publicly, they declare that they do not obey the international law. So it's a terror organization, declared as a terror organization. So, but it is important, even if it's only for PR, public relation, even if.
Yeah, and in any case, I think it helps raise awareness for the situation of hostages and the fact that Hamas is a terror organization. Switching gears just a little bit in regards to these negotiations, what is on the table? I mean, we heard about a 6-week pause. Netanyahu's made clear a permanent ceasefire, not an option right now. So what is an option?
Well, I must tell you that many times I do not understand the Israeli policy. I mean, what's the problem? I mean, Israel can declare and should declare, by the way, I think, a ceasefire, but with condition. Release all the hostages and disarm the whole Gaza Strip, and we are willing for a ceasefire. Don't say no, say yes. This should be the rule. This should be the rule, because so many people around. I'm just coming back from 2 weeks in the United States speaking to, and the question is raised again and again. I mean, why Israel is saying no? It is not clear. Even if it's only in order to show what is the Hamas and who is the Hamas, Israel should say yes, ceasefire. Why not? Let them say the no. Why we have always to say the no? It's sorry to say, but it looks like a new conception, which is really counterproductive.
Now, we saw a heroic rescue of several hostages just a few days ago. What do you think the likelihood is that we'll see other similar operations, or do you know of the idea of planning any future operations to rescue hostages?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I don't even think that the army knows what is going to happen tomorrow, unless they are planning something for tomorrow or for the next day. And we do hope that we will hear about more operations, and we do hope, of course, that a much bigger group will be released by this kind of operation. But one successful operation is not saying that, whoa, we found the solution. No, we did not find yet the solution. But of course, we have all to thank the IDF for this kind of excellent operation that was carried out, needless to say.
Last question. How do you believe American pressure is playing into this? I mean, President Biden has made several concerning comments in recent days. Is Israel facing increased pressure to compromise? And where's the pressure on Hamas?
Yeah, first of all, there is no way to put any pressure on the Hamas. Maybe Qatar can do it, maybe Egypt in one way or another, but not Israel. I think that we have some misconceptions about the American establishment, mainly about the White House, because again and again they are telling us Why not a ceasefire in one way or another? Because they are under pressure. Whoever is following what is going on in the United States knows that in every public event, any official coming on behalf of the White House is attacked by the audience. Oh, why don't you push Israel for a ceasefire? Why do you supply arms that actually committing a genocide against the Palestinians? Again and again, we do not understand that they are under pressure. I don't see the same kind of pressure from the pro-Israeli camp. I don't see it even not from AIPAC. Maybe behind the scenes it does happen. But generally speaking, Israel, again, I'm saying it, Israel should declare a ceasefire. Let the Hamas say, no, we do not want to release the hostages. No, we do not want a ceasefire. Then we will be much more legitimized to continue with the field operation.
Well, we are out of time, but I want to thank you so much, as always, for your insights.
Thank you. Thank you.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple.
Well, a new documentary by former Meta executive Sheryl Sandberg will discuss the sexual abuse committed by Hamas on October 7th as a method of war. And some hostages are speaking out for the first time. Just a warning that some of this content may be upsetting to our viewers. Let's take a closer look. Agam Goldstein Almog was kidnapped from her home on October 7th by Hamas terrorists and was held captive for 51 days. Though only 17 years old, she witnessed the murder of her father and sister on that day and is now speaking out about what she witnessed in Gaza as well in a new documentary by Sheryl Sandberg, Screams Before Silence. In new footage, Agam reveals that sexual assault and rape was a regular component of the life as a hostage in Gaza.
כל פעם שפגשתי מישהו היה לפחות מישהי או מישהו אחד שחוו התעללות מינית והתעללות פיזית.
Agam spoke with some of the female hostages well in Gaza who shared tragic stories of the abuse they were experiencing.
ישבתי עם אחת מהן בערב ואמרתי לה, איך התייחסו אלייך? כאילו, תספרי לי מה עברת עד עכשיו. והיא התחילה לי לבכות, והתחלתי לבכות איתה גם. זהו, אנחנו בוכות ביחד, ואז היא התחילה לספר לי. והתחיל לנשק אותה, והיא התחילה לבכות, והיא אמרה לי, את מכירה את זה שאת בוכה והפה שלך כאילו ככה הייתי, והוא לא הפסיק לנשק אותי בכל זאת. והוא הוריד לה את כל הבגדים, ונגע בה בכל הגוף. והוא ביקש ממנה גם לגעת באיבר שלו, בכל מיני דרכים, והוא נגע גם באיבר שלה. והיא אמרה לי שהיא פשוט לא הפסיקה לבכות, והוא פשוט לא הפסיק לעשות את מה שהוא עושה. והוא נהנה מזה. וכל החצי שעה הזאת, הנשק בראש שלה. אין לה ברירה אחרת. שאלתי אותה כאילו, ועשית את זה? היא מספרת לי את הסיפור, ואני שואלת אותה כאילו, מה, תגידי, עשית משהו בקש? היא אומרת לי כאילו, מה זאת אומרת? כאילו, ברור.
While Agam was released, 17 women remain in Hamas captivity today. Sandberg's documentary aims to expose the true colors of Hamas in the aftermath of rape denial by Hamas supporters around the world. Sandberg has long been an advocate for women and has taken a public stand against Hamas in this conflict, especially in relation to the sexual violence as a method of warfare. Now turning to the north, where Hezbollah struck deep into northern Israel, targeting Sfat with a barrage of rockets. One of the rockets landed and killed one person and injured several others. The escalation comes amid failing diplomatic efforts to end the more than 4 months of deadly cross-border exchanges. Additionally, throughout the day, there have been reported airstrikes across areas of Lebanon targeting Hezbollah as tensions escalate significantly. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
Ziv Hospital in Tzfat says 8 injured people were brought to the emergency room following rocket attacks in the city. 1 woman died of her injuries. The IDF confirmed that the rockets were fired from Lebanon at the IDF Northern Command headquarters based in Tzfat. Numerous launches were identified crossing from Lebanon into the areas of Netua, Manara, and into the IDF base in northern Israel. The army responded by striking the launching sites. Meanwhile, the city of Kiryat Shmona says that the 47-year-old mother and her 15-year-old son injured in a rocket attack yesterday remain in serious but stable condition at Rambam Hospital. Speaking from his bunker ahead of the attack on Tzfat, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah warned that if Israel widens the war in Lebanon, he would respond in kind. But when the war ended in Gaza, Hezbollah would cease fire.
نقاتل في الجنوب وعيننا على غزة. طيب في نقطة عندما يقف العدوان على غزة ويقف إطلاق النار في غزة سيقف إطلاق النار في الجنوب. طلع وزير الحرب الإسرائيلي شو قال؟ قال لا حتى لو وقفنا بغزة نحن بدنا نكمل بالجنوب. كمان أهلا ومرحب ما في مشكلة. بتكمل بالجنوب منكمل بالجنوب.
Nasrallah's comment came after Israeli leaders warned that after Gaza, Israel would deal with Hezbollah and force them back from the border. Diplomatic efforts are continuing to avoid war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. France is reportedly proposing a truce deal that would push Hezbollah 10 kilometers north of the border. France is proposing a delineated land border with the terror group remaining inside the UN-mandated buffer zone south of the Litani River, but outside the range of anti-tank missiles. Paris reportedly delivered a written proposal to Beirut and Jerusalem. The 3-step plan includes a 10-day process of de-escalation, ending with negotiations on the long unresolved land border between Lebanon and Israel.
Well, indeed, throughout the day, there have been those reported airstrikes across areas of Lebanon targeting Hezbollah as these tensions escalate significantly. Now, here to speak with us about the next step in this military operation is Dr. Morai Kadar of Professors for a Strong Israel. Dr. Kadar, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
So on Israel's northern front, there has been a massive escalation today with 1 soldier being killed by Hezbollah attacks. What are the next steps for Israel?
Well, Israel has in its bank many targets in Lebanon, but the only question is if Israel really wants to escalate the war or not. As long as the operations in Gaza are continuing, Israel would try to postpone dealing with Hezbollah, although Israel can do it very easily. It won't be, a very, very easy thing, but Israel does have the ability to deal with Hezbollah in the north and with Hamas, or the remnants of Hamas in Rafah.
Now, when it comes to Hezbollah, is the Islamic Republic pulling the strings? Are they seeking more confrontation? Is that what we're seeing with the escalation today?
I think that this question should be directed to the American administration. Are they really willing to lower the flames here in the Middle East? Because if they really want, they should tell the Iranians, hey guys, if Hezbollah continues to harass Israel and to kill Israeli citizens, you are going to suffer. And if this is the message from the American administration to Iran, they know very well how to calm the flames down. The only question is, what is the message which the American administration is sending to the Iranian Ayatollahs who keep shouting, death to America, death to Israel?
Now, when it comes to the international community, as you mentioned, in the event of a full-on war with Hezbollah, do you believe Israel will have the necessary support from the Western world?
Look, I think that the Western world basically understands that Israel actually is a front bastion of the civilization against the jihadism, which is being arranged by Iran as the head of the octopus and its tentacles in Gaza, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon,
in Yemen. Just look what the Houthis are doing to the global trade traffic. So I think that the people in the West, those who operate their heads, understand what happens here in the Middle East. And they surely know that if Israel collapses in front of this jihadism, they will be the next target, means in Europe, and the Atlantic Ocean is not wide enough to keep America away from this problem as well. So, guys, you are under, let's say, a test. Will you support Israel and thus support yourself, or abandon Israel and thus sacrifice yourself on the altar of jihadism?
Well, Dr. Kadar, we are out of time, unfortunately, but I appreciate your insight as always. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, recent months have seen unprecedented anti-Semitism on American campuses, and the Ivy League schools like Harvard and Columbia seem to be the worst. It was announced this week that Columbia is being sued for their failure to protect Jewish students on campus, which comes just a few days after we visited Columbia University and spoke with the students and professors about the situation. While the students have faced continued harassment, the students who came to speak with us on campus came prepared for a statement of resistance. Let's take a look. Emily Schrader here for ILTV News. We are here on the campus of Columbia University, where we will be walking across campus to see what happens, type of social experiment. Now, the background of this, of course, is that Columbia University, like many universities, have dealt with an increase in anti-Semitism, especially since October 7th. Shai, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on here at Columbia?
There are very strong voices now in the university, both student organizations and faculty, that are openly supporting Hamas and the Houthis and are calling for the dismantling of the state of Israel. They basically don't recognize Israel's right to exist.
Now, on campus, there have been issues with groups like the Students for Justice in Palestine, who in fact were suspended for some of their actions on campus for holding protests illegally. And yet, despite that, they have continued to hold demonstrations and activities on campus. Shai, has anything happened at the university level? Have they taken any action to protect Jewish students or to deal with some of these extremist groups?
It's been 2.5 months, which they have been continuously, repeatedly organizing protests that they're told that they are unauthorized protests. They still organize them. The university does nothing about them. They have videos of all the organizers. They don't do anything about them. This isn't about Israel or Palestine. It's about basic morality.
It's not even just about the message. It's how you present the message. And we're doing it right now with grace.
Right. I mean, I want two states. I want a Palestinian state and an Israeli state. Yeah. I'm not calling for your destruction. You're calling for mine.
Have you seen any positive reaction from the administration at Columbia? Have they been helpful at all in defense of Jewish students?
They said nothing about all the hatred that we are receiving. And the fact that SJP and all of these organizations are still coming here to protest, that means how much university doesn't care about us.
One thing that I'm glad as a professor is that, all these agents of chaos, they're in class now. The fact that they're in class now is actually kind of nice, to walk around campus and it's silent.
Well, there you have it, a very difficult situation across all of college campuses, but especially at Columbia University. We're grateful to all of the students and Professor Shai Davidai for being with us and for engaging in this type of social experiment. Emily Schrader for ILTV. Let's take a look at the weather forecast. Rainy showers and cloudy skies are expected tonight around most of the country, with temperatures reaching lows of around 10 degrees Celsius or 51 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, more cloudy skies and light rain, with temperatures set to reach highs of 16 degrees Celsius or 61 degrees Fahrenheit. That's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our ILTV channels, subscribe to our ILTV newsletter, and don't forget to check out our new and improved website, ILTV.tv, with all the latest news from the heart of the State of Israel. I'm Emily Schrader. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.